It was a rainy Saturday afternoon when Daniel Hart pulled his black SUV into the parking lot of Molly's Diner. His 5-year-old son, Noah, sat quietly in the back seat staring out the window. The little boy's legs were weak, his wheelchair folded beside him. Noah had been born with a rare spinal condition that made walking nearly impossible. For Daniel, every day was a delicate balance between business meetings and doctor appointments. He was a man who had built a fortune, but lost his smile along the way. Inside the diner, the smell of freshly baked pies mixed with the sound of soft country music. Daniel rolled Noah's wheelchair beside a corner booth and ordered pancakes. That's when she appeared, Emily. She was in her mid-20s, wearing a faded apron, her hair tied messily, but her smile was as warm as summer sunlight. She greeted them with a gentle kindness Daniel hadn't seen in years. "Hey there, buddy," she said, kneeling beside Noah. "You like music?" Noah nodded shyly. Emily grinned and set a small toy car on the table. "Well, I bet you can dance better than I can sitting down." Daniel chuckled under his breath. He was used to people pitying his son, but not celebrating him. Emily wasn't faking it. There was something real in her energy, something healing. After serving a few tables, Emily noticed Noah tapping his fingers to the music. Suddenly she came back, wiped her hands on her apron, and said, "You know what? Let's make this place a dance floor." She gently lifted Noah from his wheelchair, supporting him carefully as his tiny feet touched the floor. Daniel froze, his protective instincts kicked in, but Noah's laughter stopped him. It was the kind of laughter he hadn't heard in months. Emily swayed with Noah in her arms, humming softly as they turned in slow circles between tables. The entire diner watched silently, then someone started clapping. For a moment it felt like magic had walked in and sat down with their pancakes. Daniel's throat tightened. He'd spent money on every treatment, every piece of medical equipment, every comfort imaginable, but he'd forgotten the simplest one: joy. He reached for his phone, filming the moment through blurred eyes. After the song ended, Emily placed Noah back in his chair, her eyes shining. "You're a great dancer, champ," she whispered. Noah grinned from ear to ear. Daniel stood up. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You didn't have to do that." Emily shrugged. "Maybe not, but sometimes the smallest dance can lift the heaviest hearts." Her words lingered in the air long after she walked away. Daniel didn't know it yet, but that short dance would mark the beginning of something far greater: a friendship, a bond, and a second chance at happiness he never saw coming. As Daniel looked at Noah, still smiling, still glowing, he realized he had just witnessed something priceless. And for the first time in years, he didn't feel like the richest man in the room. He felt like the luckiest father in the world. The next morning, Daniel couldn't stop thinking about the waitress who'd danced with his son. He'd replayed the moment 100 times in his head. The laughter, the way Noah's eyes sparkled. It wasn't just a kind gesture. It had felt healing. Something in Emily's presence had touched a part of him he'd buried beneath years of loneliness and guilt. Daniel Hart wasn't just a businessman. He was a man haunted by memories. His wife Clara had passed away when Noah was 2, leaving behind a quiet house and a broken heart. Since then, he'd built walls around himself, high, strong, and cold. He could manage million-dollar deals but couldn't face the echo of his wife's laughter that still lingered in Noah's eyes. That Sunday afternoon, Daniel drove back to the diner. He told himself it was just to thank Emily properly, but deep down he knew it was something else. Maybe curiosity, maybe longing. Emily was behind the counter, wiping tables with her usual grace. Her hair was tied back, her apron smeared with flour, yet she radiated warmth that no fancy dress could match. When she saw Daniel and Noah at the door, her face lit up. "Hey, my favorite dance partner's back," she called, waving to Noah. Noah giggled. "I came for pancakes." "And maybe a little music?" she teased. Daniel smiled, in the first genuine one in months. "You seem to have a way with people," he said softly when she came over. She shrugged, pouring him coffee. "When life hits hard, you learn to give back what you wish someone had given you." Her words stirred something inside him. He wanted to ask more in what had life done to her. But before he could, a tall man in greasy overalls stormed into the diner, slamming a wrench onto the counter. "Emily," he barked. "You're late with the rent again. If you don't pay by Friday, you're out." The whole diner went silent. Emily's hand trembled slightly, but she stood her ground. I told you I just need a few more days. Please, Mark. No more excuses, he snapped, glaring before walking out. Daniel's jaw tightened. He hated seeing her humiliated, but Emily didn't ask for pity. She simply took a deep breath and smiled at Noah again. Sorry about that, kiddo. Adults can be such drama sometimes. After lunch, Daniel left a generous tip under his coffee cup, $200. But when he reached the parking lot, he heard footsteps behind him. Emily stood there holding the cash. I can't take this, she said firmly. You've already given me more than enough. Daniel frowned. I just wanted to help. She shook her head. Help isn't money, Mr. Hart. Sometimes it's just listening. Sometimes it's letting someone dance again. He was stunned by her sincerity. Most people saw his wealth before his name, but Emily saw through the armor. She wasn't impressed by who he was, and that was new. Before he could respond, Noah tugged at his sleeve. Daddy, can Miss Emily come to the park with us? Emily smiled awkwardly. Oh, I don't know. Please, Noah pleaded. We can dance again. Daniel laughed softly. Only if she has time. After a pause, Emily nodded. All right, just for a bit. That afternoon at the park, Daniel watched as Emily helped Noah stand, guiding his steps as leaves swirled around them. His son was walking, not perfectly, not steadily, but walking. Daniel's throat tightened again. Emily's laughter carried through the autumn air, and for the first time, the heavy silence inside him began to break. When Noah finally tired out, Emily sat beside Daniel on the bench. He's a brave little guy, she said. He gets it from his mom, Daniel replied quietly. She passed away 3 years ago. Emily's eyes softened. I'm so sorry. It's okay, Daniel whispered. I just forget how to let people in anymore. Emily hesitated, then said, Maybe it's time someone reminded you how. Their eyes met for a brief second, and something unspoken flickered between them. Two souls, both scarred by loss, quietly recognizing the same pain. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Daniel didn't realize that his quiet decision to visit that diner again had set his life on a completely new path. One filled with healing, hope and love he thought he'd lost forever. The next few days felt brighter for Daniel and Noah. Every evening after work, Daniel would drive to Molly's diner, not for the food, but for the laughter. Emily had a way of turning the ordinary into magic. She'd teach Noah little dance moves, balancing him with patience and care. For the first time in years, Daniel felt a kind of peace he thought he'd never find again. But behind Emily's easy smiles, there was something she never spoke of. A shadow in her eyes that appeared whenever someone mentioned family. Daniel noticed it, though he never asked. Until one rainy Thursday night. The diner was almost empty. Thunder rolled outside as the last customers left. Daniel had stayed late, helping Noah finish his fries while Emily wiped tables. She seemed tired, her movement slower than usual. Long day? Daniel asked softly. Emily gave a faint laugh. Long life, maybe. He smiled. I know the feeling. She hesitated, then sat across from him, her hands folded. Can I tell you something, Daniel? He nodded. I wasn't always here, she began, her voice trembling slightly. A few years ago, I lived in the city. I was engaged to a man who wasn't kind. He controlled everything, where I went, what I did, even what I wore. I thought love meant staying no matter how much it hurt. Daniel's expression darkened with quiet empathy. One night, she continued, he got angry because I was late from work. He pushed me and I hit my head. That's when I ran. I left everything behind, my clothes, my home, my pride. I came here with nothing but a bag and a promise to myself. I'd never let anyone make me feel small again. She blinked fast, fighting back tears. I work 3 jobs. I send money to my mom for her medication. Some days I can't even pay rent. But when I see people smile, like your son did that day, it makes all the struggle worth it. Daniel felt something stir deep inside. He had admired Emily's kindness before, but now he saw her strength. She wasn't just kind. She was brave. You're stronger than you think, he said gently. She smiled sadly. Maybe, but strength doesn't pay bills. Daniel wanted to help, but he remembered her words. Help isn't money, so he didn't offer cash. Instead, he offered his presence, his attention, something he hadn't given anyone in years. That night, as he drove home, Noah was half asleep in the back seat, clutching a little paper heart Emily had folded for him. Daniel looked at it and whispered, "She's special, isn't she, buddy?" Noah murmured, "She makes the world not sad, Daddy." Those words hit Daniel harder than he expected. He'd spent so long fixing problems with money that he'd forgotten that sometimes hearts don't need fixing, just understanding. Over the next week, their bond deepened. Daniel learned that Emily volunteered at a children's hospital on Sundays, teaching dance to kids in wheelchairs. It was there that Noah met other children like him and began believing that maybe, just maybe, he could walk someday. One afternoon as they left the hospital, Daniel saw Emily outside, sitting on the curb, tears streaming down her face. He rushed over. "What's wrong?" She handed him a letter, an eviction notice. "My landlord gave me 2 days," she whispered. "I tried to catch up, but I just can't." Daniel's chest tightened. He wanted to say, "You can stay with us," but it felt too soon, too forward. Instead, he said softly, "You won't face this alone, Emily, I promise." She looked up, surprised. "Why do you care so much?" He hesitated. "Because you reminded my son how to live again, and you reminded me how to feel." Her eyes glistened, and for a long moment neither of them spoke. The rain began to fall again, gently this time, as if the heavens were giving them a chance to start anew. Daniel didn't know how, but he knew this was only the beginning of something deeper, something that would soon test their courage and their hearts in ways they never expected. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Emily sitting in the rain with that eviction notice crumpled in her hand. Her words echoed in his head. Help isn't money. But still, he couldn't just watch her lose everything. She had given his son joy, confidence, and laughter. Now it was his turn to give something back. Quietly, the next morning while Noah ate breakfast, Daniel made a few calls. He contacted the landlord and Mark, the same man who had stormed into the diner weeks ago. "I want to pay off Emily's rent," Daniel said calmly, "and extend her lease for a year, but keep my name out of it." Mark hesitated. "You sure? She'll find out eventually." "Then let her," Daniel replied softly. "By then it'll just look like life was finally kind to her." Within hours the payment was made. Daniel didn't stop there. He reached out to his company's HR department and asked if there were any local community outreach programs that could hire someone with Emily's compassion and communication skills. They found one, a dance therapy program for children with disabilities, the same cause that Emily had been volunteering for. The following day, Daniel took Noah to the diner. Emily greeted them with her usual smile, though her eyes looked tired. "You two again?" she teased. "You must really love pancakes." "We love good company," Daniel said warmly. As they talked, Mark walked in again, but this time his tone was different. He handed Emily a paper. "Here," he grumbled. "Someone cleared your dues. You're good for a whole year." Emily blinked, stunned. "What? Who?" Mark shrugged. "Anonymous donor, I guess. You got lucky." She looked down at the paper, her hands shaking. This can't be real." Daniel quickly looked away, pretending to focus on Noah's plate, but Emily noticed his faint smile. Something inside her stirred, a strange feeling she couldn't name. After Mark left, she sat beside Daniel. "Do you believe in miracles?" she asked softly. He smiled. "Sometimes miracles are just kindness wearing a disguise." She chuckled, wiping a tear. "Well, whoever did this, I owe them my life." Later that evening, Daniel received a call from his HR director. "We spoke with Miss Emily Carter today," she said. "She came in for an interview at the Dance Therapy Center. She was incredible. We'd like to hire her." Daniel grinned. "That's the best news I've heard all week." Over the next few days, Emily's life began to shift. She started her new job, teaching kids how to move, express, and smile through dance. She'd never looked happier. Daniel watched from afar, proud but cautious. He didn't want her to feel indebted. He just wanted her to rise. But life, as always, has its own plans. One Friday evening, As Daniel and Noah arrived at the diner, they found Emily outside, holding a letter. Her expression was unreadable. "Daniel," she said quietly, "I found out." His heart sank. "Found out what?" "That you were the one who paid my rent and helped me get that job." Her eyes glistened with tears. "Why didn't you just tell me?" Daniel sighed. "Because I didn't want to make you feel like you owed me anything. You're strong, Emily. You don't need saving." Her voice broke. "But you did save me. Not just with money and with belief. No one's ever done that for me before." For a long moment they stood in silence. The city lights reflected in her tear-filled eyes. Then she whispered, "I didn't want to depend on anyone again. But you make it feel safe." Daniel stepped closer. "You've done more for me and Noah than you'll ever realize. You gave us back our joy." Noah, sitting in his wheelchair, looked up at both of them and said innocently, "Daddy, are you and Miss Emily going to be a family now?" Emily's cheeks flushed. Daniel laughed softly. "Maybe one day." It was a tender moment, the kind that makes hearts believe in second chances. But just as peace settled between them, a voice from behind shattered it. "Emily Carter," the voice said sternly. They turned to see a man standing in the shadows, tall, well-dressed, with eyes cold as glass. Emily froze, her face turning pale. Daniel stepped protectively in front of her. "Who are you?" The man smirked. "Her past." The man's words hit Emily like lightning. Her breath caught, her hands trembling. Daniel instinctively stepped between her and the stranger, shielding her. "Who are you?" he demanded again, his voice calm but firm. The man's smirk deepened. "Name's Victor. I'm Emily's fiancé." Emily's eyes widened in horror. "Ex-fiancé," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You don't belong here, Victor. You promised you'd leave me alone." Victor ignored her, his gaze turning to Daniel. "So this is where you ran off to? Playing waitress for pity?"
Taking money from rich men now?
Daniel's jaw clenched. "That's enough." People inside the diner began watching through the glass, their faces tense. Emily's heart pounded. This was the nightmare she thought she'd escaped, standing in the open, powerless in front of the man who'd broken her spirit. "I said that's enough," Daniel repeated, stepping closer. "You don't talk to her like that." Victor laughed mockingly. "And what are you going to do, rich boy? Buy her freedom?" But Emily suddenly found her voice. She straightened, tears glistening but her tone steady. "You don't get to control me anymore, Victor. I'm not afraid of you." He took a step toward her, but Daniel's hand shot out, blocking his path. "You heard her leave." For a moment, tension thickened the air. Then, as if realizing he'd lost control of her, Victor sneered. "You'll regret this," he muttered before storming off into the night. Emily's knees buckled and Daniel caught her just in time. "It's over," he whispered gently. "You're safe now." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she buried her face against his chest. "I thought I was done running," she sobbed. "You are," he said softly. "You're home." Noah, who had been watching quietly, rolled closer. "Miss Emily, Daddy's really strong. He scared that bad man away." Emily smiled through her tears. "He sure did, buddy. He sure did." They took her home that night. Daniel didn't care about what anyone would say. Emily and Noah were family to him now. Over the next few weeks, the police helped file a restraining order against Victor, and Emily slowly began to heal from years of fear. But her true healing came from small moments. Noah's laughter, Daniel's patience, and the music that filled their evenings. They would dance in the living room, Noah balancing on Daniel's shoes, Emily guiding them both. One evening, as the sunset painted golden light through the windows, Daniel looked at Emily. "You know, I used to think happiness was something you buy, but now I know it's something you build." Emily smiled softly. "And you build it with people who care." He nodded. "Like you." For a long moment they just stood there, two souls who had found light after darkness. Then Noah's voice broke the silence. "Daddy, look." They turned to see him, standing on his own, wobbly but steady, taking 3 small steps toward them. Emily gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "Noah, you're walking." Tears welled in Daniel's eyes as he knelt and held his son. "I knew you could do it," Noah grinned. "I learned it from Miss Emily. She said even small steps count." Emily knelt beside them, her voice trembling. And they do, sweetheart. Every single one. That night, Daniel looked out at the stars with gratitude. His life had been full of wealth, but for the first time it felt rich. Emily had taught him that kindness isn't weakness, and it's strength. And Noah had reminded him that miracles happen when love is allowed to grow. Months later, at the same diner where it all began, Daniel stood up and gently tapped a glass. The small crowd hushed. Emily looked up, surprised. He smiled nervously. The first time I came here, I saw a waitress dancing with my son. I didn't know that one moment would change everything. Emily Carter, would you keep dancing with us forever? Her hands flew to her face as tears streamed down. Yes, she whispered, laughing through her tears. The diner erupted in applause. Noah clapped loudly, shouting, "We're a family now." And just like that, the man who thought he'd lost everything found his home again. Not in wealth or success, but in love, courage, and the kindness of a woman who danced through pain and turned it into joy.